Hello, everybody. At first, I would like to greet you and thank you for your interest in attending our webinar on strategy execution. It's about realized strategy and how to turn it into actionable steps. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rita Budiab, a strategy consultant at THETA Consultancy and Business Development. I'm here to highlight the importance of strategic planning and the best practices that must be followed to achieve its goals. In this webinar, we'll talk about strategies and challenges facing strategy implementation. We'll present the 3-year program THETA Consultancy and Business Development offers with a demonstration of the SIA platform, the core of THETA program. Also, a quick testimonial will be shared and we'll end up with a question and answer session. Our webinar objectives are to become familiar with the challenges facing strategic planning, to understand the best practices to plan and execute strategies, and to understand how visualization tools can align stakeholders and continuously improve organization plans. During the presentation, please don't hesitate to add your questions and concerns in the question and answer chat. Okay, let's start our webinar by explaining what a strategy is and what is not. Unfortunately, some people think that a strategy is a list of goals, saying that my goal is to be the #1 company in my industry. Actually, it's not a list of goals, and it's not a mean of justifying your current tactics. A strategy guides you to what you should do, rather than helps you make sense of what you are actually doing. And it's not a growth in efficiency and organizational processes. These are important, but these are actually methods by which goals are delivered. And it's not a project plan or list of steps needed to accomplish your goals. So, if a strategy is none of these, so what is a strategy? A strategy is a diagnosis of the problem you are trying to solve. For instance, if your goal is to grow sales in a specific region, then a strategy could identify the most valuable customers in that region, how you can reach them, and how you can engage them with your marketing efforts. A strategy is one element of money that helps an organization achieve its goals. It does not live on its own. First, you have to identify a mission, a direction, and goals. Then a strategy guides you to how you will achieve them and develops a plan of what and who you need to help you get there. So a strategy is a guide in everything you do. By explaining what a strategy is, we can say that a strategic plan defines your organization's long-term goals and maps how your short-term objectives and work will help you achieve them. So, now let's learn about what a strategic plan involves. It involves the mission, which is the organization's main purpose. The vision, which is simply what the organization wants to accomplish. The differentiation, which means providing something unique, different, and distinct from products and services other competitors may offer. Let's take an example, Emirates Airlines. Emirates Airlines, what differentiates them, not the number of weekly flights and the destinations they reach. What really differentiates them is the exceptional customer service and the advanced navigation technology they use for their airplanes. Also, a strategic plan should cover the analysis. the SWOT analysis, which stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Once this analysis considers the factors of internal processes and the factors of external processes that are out of control. Once you're done with the analysis, you'll be able to build on strength, shore up weaknesses, capitalize opportunities, and manage threats. Therefore, you'll be able to think about the options and set your strategic priorities. For example, Apple priority as top priority is to introduce new products or updated versions of existing ones annually. Also, a strategic plan should involve the initiatives that outline the specific steps an organization must complete in order to turn its strategic plan into reality. And there must be an allocation of resources that is done by distributing resources among departments, projects, and activities in alignment with goals. And finally, a strategic plan should monitor and analyze the financial performance to ensure its overall health and make informed decisions. After explaining what a strategic plan should cover, it's easy to realize that an organization may face a problem with its strategic plan if it lacks a shared aligned purpose, unbiased opinions, a cohesive environment, and a dynamic, structured, and systematic approach. Let's assume that we're done with strategy formulation and it's the time to implement our strategy. What are the challenges of strategy implementation? In fact, organizations face many challenges in its strategy implementation. According to statistics, 61% of organizations fail in strategy implementation due to the gap between strategy and its day-to-day implementation. And 30% of them fail because of the failure to coordinate between units, while 25% of them fail because of the complexity of measuring implementation. As a result, to provide you with the experience and tools to effectively formulate and implement your strategy, I'll give the mic to my colleague Abdurrahman Kayali, the CEO and founder of THETA Consultancy and Business Development. Please, Abdurrahman.
Okay, thank you, Rika, for the overview about the strategy and the challenges facing the strategy implementation. And yeah, I would like to extend the gratitude to all the attendees today in our session. Let me introduce myself. My name is Abdurrahman Kayali. I'm the founder and CEO of THETA Consultancy and Business Development. So, a common question, why do plans fail? And the objective of our session today is to unpack it with you, to unpack this crucial question with you, inshallah. As you know, plans can fail for a variety of reasons, ranging from improper planning, unforeseen external factors, internal misalignments, and so on. In a study conducted by McKinsey, 45% of nearly 800 executives admitted that their strategic planning process failed short when it came to tracking the execution of strategic initiatives. This highlights a very crucial gap between the planning and the execution. And without proper tracking, even the most carefully crafted strategies can struggle in materialization. And this confirms the importance, of course, of not just creating plans, but actively monitoring and adjusting them when needed. Gartner research reveals a striking misalignment. So 67% of key functions are not in sync with business units and corporate strategy. This misalignment, as you know, can lead to inefficiency, missed opportunities in the market, and ultimately limit the organization's ability to achieve its strategic objective. It's, of course, the importance of fostering alignment across all levels of the organization to ensure everyone is working toward the same goals. So, increasing the chances of success is the ultimate objective of this webinar, and it's crucial to focus on some key areas and get assistance when needed. And here we are happy to take you through a 3-year strategy program that we are delivering as THETA in collaboration with different partners, which aim to increase the chances of success for your strategy implementation. So to tell you more about our 3-year strategy program, the program is designed to deliver a comprehensive framework and execution guidance to organizations seeking to achieve their long-term strategic goals, which can be either on the organization level or it can be also on the division or department levels. Also, as we are a technology consulting firm and tech is part of our DNA, our program employs several innovative tools to analyze, automate, integrate, visualize, and even track strategy to increase the odds of successful implementation. So what we do in our program, first we assess the organization in building the organization strategy or review the existing strategy if it exists. And this will include, of course, organization vision and mission, as mentioned by Rita. The internal analysis, so what strengths we have and what weaknesses we have. Of course, the external analysis, setting the strategic priorities for the organization, and the financial projections and the strategic plans. After building the strategy, we will start to work with all stakeholders in the organization, including the executive team, the functional team, on the operating plan. And this, of course, will include the budgets, initiatives, responsibilities, time plan, and so on. While building the strategy and the plans, of course, we will ensure an objective thinking in all actions, so no emotional or biased decisions to be taken. We will ensure always that the decisions are made based on data, and this approach will, of course, allow us to make informed decisions that drive sustainable growth for the organization and deliver real value to all stakeholders. As mentioned also in the statistics shown by Rita, tracking the progress toward the goal is very crucial for achieving the success, and it's one of the management daily tasks. It allows us to assess and how the strategies, are working, identify the areas that need improvement, make informed decisions about adjustment, or even produce new initiatives. Also, the regular progress tracking helps to keep the team motivated and focused, and they can see the impact of their activity and efforts, and of course, they can celebrate the success. And for this, we are more establishing clear metrics and milestones in addition to the moderation of a quarterly review meetings. To analyze the progress and ensure that organization is on track to achieve its goals. Studies and experience, of course, shows another important aspects to increase the chances of success. which is involvement of all the stakeholders within the organization. As by involving the team from the beginning, we can, of course, gain very valuable insights from the team, collect diverse perspectives, secure, of course, the ownership and commitment for the strategic decisions and directions of the company. And by that, we can increase the chances of success of the implementation. Lastly, governing the implementation of the plan is crucial for ensuring the strategy is executed effectively and efficiently. So we establish a governance framework that includes clear rules, responsibilities, and accountability to oversee the implementation process. And this framework covers the progress tracking, of course, identify and mitigate the risks, and make, of course, timely adjustments to the plan when needed. So as a conclusion, the 3-year program will include building the strategy if it doesn't exist, evaluating the strategy if it exists, building the operating plan and frameworks and governance frameworks as well. And this part could take from 1 to 3 months. Depends on the level of the maturity and the level of the involvement of the stakeholders. And after that, of course, we assess the organizations over a 3-year with the most important part of the program, which is the implementation of the strategy. As the strategy is not just about crafting the plan, it's about executing the plan effectively and continuously, of course, monitoring and adjusting to ensure the effectiveness of the plan. And as you know, operation relies on 3 pillars: resources, process, and tools. And one of the tools we are utilizing to facilitate our program is Strategy in Action platform, which is a cutting-edge tool that enhances the strategic clarity, facilitate real-time tracking and progress, and enable agile decision-making. And to tell you more about this tool, I would like to give the mic to Ben, who will take you through a live demonstration on Strategy in Action platform.
Perfect. Thank you, Abdulrahman. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you're all doing well. And thank you for the opportunity in this webinar to speak to you and also to take you through Strategy in Action. Just quickly, I'll give a very brief introduction on myself, and then we will jump straight to what we call the Strategy in Action platform, which is a solution for strategy formulation, strategy execution, and also strategic monitoring. In terms of my background, I'm Ben Davis. So originally, I come from a background very different to what I do today. So my original background was in sport. I played tennis up until about 10 years ago professionally, including some travel to various places in the Middle East to compete. And then I retired due to injury, and I moved via studies in the United States into strategy consulting. So I'm a strategy consultant by trade, delivering this type of work for organizations around the world. But alongside that, I also work with our partners. So we are a technology partner to THETA, and we're privileged to be so. So this is my background. I also do a little bit of work in academia as a visiting lecturer in this topic, in growth and innovation strategy, at the London campus of ESCP. I'm very happy to connect with anyone outside of this and through THETA if you wanted to discuss anything related to that. So let's move to the platform. I'll just share my screen and we'll start to take you through what Strategy in Action look like and what it delivers as well. I would also just say, if anyone has any questions as we go through this, I know that we'll have time at the end for questions, but please also feel free to raise your hand or ask directly in the chat on the side. And I'm happy to answer it as we go through this as well as at the end. So please don't hesitate. Please feel free. In fact, the more collaboration, the better. In fact, Ihab, I see you asked a question about financial projection. We will cover that in a couple of minutes here within the platform. First and foremost, just want to confirm, maybe Rita or someone confirm that everyone can see the platform. Everyone can see my screen. Fantastic. Okay. So this is Strategy in Action. and this is the strategy and action platform. So as we were just seeing in the slides a couple of minutes ago, this is what enables for organizations 3 key things. The first is what we call strategy formulation, so the development of the strategic plan. The second is the execution of the strategy, so what we call the operating plan. And the third is the monitoring of the strategy, so what we call a progress review, or the PMO, where we see how successful or unsuccessful we are being. The tool that you see here, the tool that you see here is the platform element of strategy and action. It's the software component, but you wouldn't, or you don't just access the platform. You're not just provided the platform and we say good luck. We provide the platform and it's supported through expert consulting delivery, expert consulting support by the THETA team. So it's a collaboration between very powerful software and very expert people collaborating with your organization. Within the strategy board here, and this for everyone is an illustrative example of a food company, but this process is completely industry agnostic. But within the platform here, you can see the 3 key elements that I was just speaking about. So from vision, mission, and level of ambition through to strategic scenarios, this is the strategy formulation piece. So this is where you as an organization define, what do you ultimately want to achieve? Where do you want to go? What are the threats, or what are the big opportunities to your business? Where do you play today? Where could you play? How are you going to get there? As well as to your question, Ihab, what are the financial projections? What do we expect? What's the so what of our strategy? From here, we cascade down to these orange tiles of the initiatives planning and the budget. And these orange tiles are the operating plan. This is the execution piece. This is where we make the strategy happen. So this is where, as we like to say, or especially in the United States, as they like to say, it's where we go from talking the talk to walking the walk. We make it happen. So we operationalize the strategy. At a tactical level, we understand what we need to do. And finally, we have this grey-blue tile down here in the bottom left, which is called the progress review. And this is the PMO component. This is your project management. This is where you want to understand how successful are we being in executing our strategy, or unsuccessful? Are there areas where we have challenges that we may need to refine, we may need to iterate, we may need to adapt in order to be more effective moving forward? So these are the 3 components of strategy and action. And these are the 3 components that your experts, the consultants working with you, the THETA team, support you in delivering through the series of workshops. That's the helicopter view. And now we're going to take just 5 or 10 minutes to walk through some of these specific components and see what sits behind this, see the details of what you're taken through. So as we know, and as all of us know, strategy is ultimately about asking the right questions and answering those questions effectively. And we build out components, we build end products that are the answers to these questions. And that, in essence, is what the strategy and action platform does. So first and foremost, as an organization, you may have a question, which is, where do we ultimately want to go? What do we ultimately want to achieve? What does success look like for us? And one of the first steps within the platform is to answer that question. It's the development of what we call your strategy in a page. So a one page that says for your organization, what is your vision? So what's the long-term future state of the organization? What do you ultimately want to achieve? Where do you want to go? And what is your mission? What's your purpose? What is your reason for being? Now, what we do in the platform, first of all, is to input those, just to build them in, or we iterate them, or we build them completely afresh. But the challenge for most organizations with the vision and mission is that the vision and mission is completely interpretable. So if I think that success looks like becoming the #1 provider of meat and beyond in the Nordics, I could be talking about revenue. Or becoming the #1 provider of meat and beyond in the Nordics could be related to market share, or it could be related to customer NPS, so the feedback that we get from our customers. But it's completely different, or it could be completely different for every individual within the organization. So what we do through the process is we make it very real. So we transform the vision and mission into the top level KPIs, the top metrics for your organization. what does success ultimately look like in terms of revenue KPIs? So revenue, gross margin, EBITDA, financial KPIs, as well as non-financial KPIs. And we want to build a very well-rounded, very holistic understanding of what we ultimately want to achieve. And it's going through this process that develops one of the first outputs, which is the strategy on a page. That one pager that says very clearly for your organization, this is our vision, this is where we ultimately want to go. This is our mission, it's why we do what we do as an organization. And this is our level of ambition. These are our top level metrics that are most critical for us that we ultimately want to go and achieve. So if you imagine for your organization that you have developed your strategy on a page, you've developed your vision, mission, and level of ambition. Well, for now, in these couple of minutes, I'm just going to show you how you'll go and execute. How will you make it happen? And then we'll return to a few of the other elements. So if you've built out, if you've defined what your strategy on a page is, you know where you want to go, the next question for your organization is, how are we going to make it happen? How are we going to do it? How will we bridge the gap between where we are today and where we want to be? Or the bridging of that gap, the steps we will take to go and make that happen is what we call the strategic priorities. And the strategic priorities down here are how we will go and achieve our goals. So within the platform, you as an organization, but again, being coached, being guided, being driven by your expert consultants, your expert support, you will define what your priorities are. So what are your Horizon 1 priorities? The priorities that defend and extend your core business. What are your Horizon 2 priorities? The big scale-up priorities where you see significant opportunity. What are your Horizon 3 priorities? The areas of innovation or R&D or new markets you may want to enter. As well as what are your enabling priorities? What's your base? What are your foundations related to your people, related to your processes, related to the tools that you use? So you will build out these priorities, and then you will define the impact of those priorities on your P&L. And this, Ihab, to your question before, and thank you for that question, is your financial projections. So what you will ultimately develop, the output you will build, will be the impact of your strategic priorities. What are your priorities? What's the financial impact that we can expect of those priorities? And where do we expect that to take us? What's our plan? What does the bridge look like? What will each of these priorities contribute in terms of revenue? And will that leave us above our level of ambition that we just built in the strategy on the page, below the level of ambition, or in line? And we have this built out for revenue, for gross margin, or EBITDA margin, as well as all the way through to understanding what are our strategic scenarios? How do we expect our strategy to play out year on year? So at this point, you're probably thinking, Ben, that's great, but how do we make those decisions? Because you've shown us how we define where we want to go. You've shown us how we define how we're going to get there. But of course, there are steps in between that where we build the understanding, we build the knowledge, we build the data, we build the insights in order to make better decisions, in order to answer the questions. And we build the insights through this part of the process. So in this part of the process here of your playing field, of internal analysis, and also of external analysis, this is especially where the consultants in your corner, the THETA team, as you can see here, are sitting with you in order to go in and really build a critical understanding of how we're going to understand the areas in which we want to go, how we're going to go and drive that particular change. So for example, in our playing field, this is where you as an organization answer the questions of where do you play today and where could you go and play? So within your playing field, you will build out what is known as your market matrix. And for those that have probably studied and conducted and finished their MBA, and for those who are very well versed in this, you will recognize this as an adapted version of what's known as an hands-off matrix. So the market matrix shows what are your offerings, what are the products and services that you have on the market today, and what are your market segments, what are the market segments you serve in terms of channel, but also in terms of geography. So you will build an understanding of what are those market spaces in which we play today, the intersection of an offering and a segment, but also you will begin to hypothesize, you will begin to think, what are the markets that we could potentially move into? Where do we potentially want to go in terms of adjacent offerings or new offerings, so products and services, but also in terms of adjacent and new market segments? From here, to close out the data gathering, you will also look at the elements of internal and external analysis. Internal analysis is building an understanding of what sits under the hood, what sits underneath our organization in terms of our capabilities, in terms of our strengths and weaknesses. How do we match up against our competitors? And then external analysis is what is happening out there. What's happening on the market? What are the trends? What are the forces at play? What's impacting the market spaces in which I compete? What are our competitors doing? And ultimately, what are the threats that we face? And what are the opportunities that we could look to maximize? So just to show you very quickly some of the outputs you will build outputs and end products such as your capabilities matrix. So building a critical and enriched understanding of your core strengths and your core weaknesses. Your core strengths are areas that you believe are unbelievably important for you to win, for you to go and achieve your goals. And you think you're fantastic at them. You're the best. It's what's known as your secret sauce. It's what's keeping you ahead of the game. It's what's driving your growth and success. But then your core weaknesses, which you will identify, are areas that you also think are unbelievably important to win. Very important for you to achieve your goals. But you're falling behind your competitors. You're not as good as they are in these areas. This is what is holding you back, or this is what is dragging you down, or this is what will stop you achieving what you want to achieve. We need to enact some change here. We need to improve upon these areas. So this is one of the outputs, for example, that you will build in internal analysis. Now, for example, and this is an example of how the experts on your side, how the team will support you on this. If any of you have gone through the process, as most of you have, sorry, Ihab, you asked another question, which is what type of analysis? I think you're talking about the previous step, I suppose. It was an hands-off matrix that we were talking about. And Mohammed, to your question, would the platform program be beneficial to use for a startup? There are some use cases. It's more traditionally designed for scale-ups, but there are some use cases and some elements that can certainly be used by startups. And we'll discuss this more in the Q&A at the end. Just to give you a bit of an idea to come back to this, to come back to your capabilities matrix of where this comes from. Most of you have probably been in the instance, in the circumstance, in a situation where you're building strengths and weaknesses. And you will probably know, if you've done that, that it becomes a competition of who has the loudest voice. Because one person says, we are fantastic at this, and then someone else who can shout louder says, no, we're terrible at that. And it's not particularly enriching, it's not particularly effective. So through this process in the platform, and again, very importantly, driven by your experts, driven by your consultants, you go through the process of your capability assessment, of understanding what are our strengths and weaknesses. So they will support you in building out your value chain, understanding what are your primary and support activities. And again, for those who'll recognize this as Michael Porter's value chain, but it's completely customizable to your business. So it's customizable down here, whether you are a SaaS company, whether you're a manufacturing company, whether you're a company working in telecoms. And within that, you will assess your capabilities. So you will go in and say, how good are we, for example, or what does cost efficiency in operations look like? How important is it? How good are we at doing it? What capacity do we have? How easy or difficult is it to go and get that skill set on the market? And it's these processes that will deliver the outputs such as we saw before. So just to finish off quickly in the next 5 minutes to give you a sense of some of the other outputs you will develop, your external analysis, as we said, is all about what's happening out there on the market. So within the external analysis, you will build outputs such as your market landscape. So you'll build an understanding for your market spaces of how big is that market? Where's that market going? How much of that market is obtainable to us? What can we expect our fair share to be? What's the market profitability? What are our competitors doing? What does the market look like in terms of comparative advantage as well as market attractiveness? What are the forces that are at play and the extent of those forces, as well as what are the trends that are impacting this? This is your PESTEL analysis. What are the type of trends that are impacting this, from political to economic to social to technological, environmental and legal, and how do they impact us and how do they impact the market? And what this will ultimately enable you as an organization to understand, and this point is absolutely critical, is which threats do we face and which opportunities can we maximize? And very importantly in the platform and through this process, you will quantify it. because you want to know how much is that threat worth. So for this company, for example, their biggest threat is in retail, in Sweden, in processed red meat, because today they do just under 400 million euros in revenue. And they believe, based upon the external analysis, based upon the insights and the data they have gathered, that they have approximately 60 million euros of threat in the next 5 years in that market space. They need to address it. They need to raise the flag and say, hey, we need to do something about that. So these are the type of processes you go through. These are the type of outputs you build in order to then define what you want to achieve, to define how you will achieve it, and then to understand the impact that it will have on your business. Now, finally, just to close off in the last 3-4 minutes from my side before we move to the Q&A, I want to take you to the next critical step, because many of us have been in a situation where we develop the strategy, and that's fantastic. But we want to avoid the situation where we end up with that fantastic PowerPoint document that sits in a file somewhere and is never seen again, or that we have the big PDF document that maybe McKinsey or Bain have prepared for us, or we prepared internally, that's 127 pages, but we only ever look at the first 10 and then it goes on the shelf. We all know that the most critical part of strategy is making it happen, is strategy execution. It's putting it into action. And that happens down here. So down here in the initiatives planning, you develop with your consultants that are working alongside you, Rita and the team. They develop the narrative, which is, what do you ultimately want to achieve? Well, we defined that before. We built your strategy in a page. How will you achieve your strategy in a page? Well, you define that as well. You built out your priorities. But now at this level, we operationalize it. We make it tactical. So we build out tactical initiatives that feed each of these priorities, that drive it to make it happen, that enable us to go and achieve our goals. And for each of these initiatives, we just define a mini business case. So we need to make sure we understand, what is the initiative? Who owns the initiative? Because as we all know, unless someone has their name next to it, unless someone owns it, high chance it's never going to happen. So who owns it? Who are the other team members that are contributing? And then we can plan the business case by saying, when will this initiative take place? What are the milestones that we need to achieve? Are there what is known as objectives and key results? So can we quantifiably track our success? And who owns these key results? Are there costs that we need to track, perhaps in terms of OPEX? Are there investments we may need to track? Do we need to purchase a new piece of equipment, if applicable? And finally, we conduct a pre-mortem. We start to think ahead of the problem in terms of, what are the risks that we could face, and what are the mitigating actions that we can put in place in order to guard against those risks. And what this will become is your roadmap for success, your roadmap to achieve your strategic goals. And we call that the operating plan. So the operating plan is automatically populated off the back of what I just showed you to tell you, what are your priorities that you've built and who owns them? What are the initiatives that will make it happen? And then for every initiative, a mini one-pager that very clearly tells you all of those elements I just showed you. What the initiative is, who are the team members, what's the timeline, what are the risks, and how do we mitigate against them? Now, finally, we're going to come to the last two elements. And now the question is, great, Ben, you've shown us how we make the strategy. You've shown us how we go and execute the strategy. How do I know if we're doing a good job or not? How do I know if we're effectively implementing and executing upon what we said we would do? And that is the progress review. So the progress review becomes your dedicated single source of truth for your PMO. But as you know from project management, the challenge is, how do you connect project management to your strategy? How do you connect project management to your people? Well, we do it here. So at the most granular level, we can see on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, it's completely customizable. How are we doing in terms of our initiatives? So these are the same initiatives I showed you before, but now we can see, for example, on a monthly basis, which of these are complete, which of these are on track, which of these are perhaps late, or which of these do we need to raise the flag? Which of these are we in trouble? Which of these do we need to enact some change? And then we can go in and see why. So we have a comment here from the owner. We can see our timeline. We can see which of the milestones are late and why they're late. And we can also see in real time, how are we doing in terms of achieving our goals? All the way up to the very top level, where you need to present to the board, you need to present to private equity, you need to present to the CEO, or you are the CEO who needs to go and put this in front of investors, or you need to put it in front of the market. Well, what you want to do is to take this report here that normally you would generate every 6 months or once a year. And this report is your top level KPIs. You can see again, revenue, gross margin, EBITDA margin, all the way through to greenhouse gas emissions for this company, completely customizable. But these were the KPIs on their strategy page. And for each of those KPIs now we understand, where are we today? Where did we say we want to be? Or sorry, where are we today? Where did we start from? Where did we say we want to be? Where are we today? And what's the status? And then we can go in and see to a greater level of granularity, how are we tracking in accordance with our scenarios? Finally, and last but not least, you need to communicate this. And communication can be challenging because you need to take this and put it in a PowerPoint, you need to put it in a different document, you need to show it. But people are busy and people don't have time, so you want individuals, those that matter, to be able to have access when and where they want. So you can publish through the platform here your strategy room. And I must apologize to everyone because there'll be two versions of me now, one in this video and the person who's talking to you. The reason is that none of my colleagues, some of whom are on this call now, wanted to step up to the plate to film the video, so I had to do it. But this is me playing the role of the CEO of this illustrative company, playing the role of FoodX. Because what I'm showing you is that within the platform here, you can build out your strategic narrative. You can add a video from your CEO, you can add a video from strategy director, but also here in the setup, you can build your strategic narrative. So you can select which of those outputs do I want to show my company, which of those outputs do I want to show the team, which of those outputs do I want to show the board, which ones do I want to potentially hide? And the platform will automatically pull them in and order it into your strategic narrative with accompanying key messages that you can build out and annotate, and you can add videos, and you can then publish this to the platform online through a password protected two-factor authentication login for the CEO to see. Even for those at the very, very base of your organization to see, or the board, or whomever you like. So that, just in conclusion, is strategy in action. That is the process. That is what we deliver. That is what the consultants, the team that you see here in front of you, would work with you to deliver upon. And this is designed as strategy as a service. It's not just a platform. It's not just consulting. It's a full circle, holistic, 360-degree, robust solution to support you in building your business strategy, executing your business strategy, and then monitoring, refreshing, and communicating your business strategy. I'll leave it there from my side. I'll leave the platform up for a moment just because I think there may be some questions on this and I can then jump to it. But Rita and Abdurrahman, I pass it back to you if you wanted to jump in and add anything to that. Any questions for now from any of the team or any of the participants?
We'll start, inshallah, a question and answer session now. Fantastic. Just let me share the screen. Okay.
Just for me, it's still loading. Maybe, yeah, now we see it.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Abdurrahman. After my fellow team members have explained thoroughly how to turn your strategic ideas into an implementable plan that you can manage, track, and evolve, please allow me to summarize what we talked about. Coming up with a decent plan that would work if implemented well does not mean that the plan is well structured to support implementation. Thank you for listening, and please be informed that THETA is offering free 30-minute strategy consultation sessions, so please don't hesitate to book a session using the link provided in the chat. And now, okay, and now it's the time to answer your questions. I will start with the first question in the chat. Let's go to the chat box. Okay. We'll start with it's loading. Just give me a minute. Okay. Just to mention that the link is already in the chat, so please book your session. Don't hesitate to book it. Now, we have a question from Ihab. He's asking about the financial projection. How do you build the financial projection based on what, on which aspects? Please, Ben.
Yeah, I can jump in, and I mean, if you would like me to share my screen again, I can, but I can maybe just talk you through it for a minute. So thank you for the question, Ihab. I showed you before, we build the financial projections off the back of the strategic priorities. So we develop your strategic priorities to say, how will you bridge the gap between where you are today and where you want to be? But then the so what is the financial projection? So what we do in the process is we take your priorities and we say in a very, very focused way, how does this priority impact on the different market spaces? So what do we expect the priority to contribute in terms of revenue? What do we expect the priority to contribute in terms of gross margin? What do we expect the priority to contribute in terms of OPEX savings? Will it enable us to save any operating cost? And then we build an understanding of what are the requirements. So what is required of this priority? What do we need to do from an OPEX standpoint in order to bring this priority to actuality? And then what CapEx is required? What capital expenditure is required in order to make this priority happen? So we have all of those elements, and that gives us the where we are today to the to be. Where do we think we'll be? And that was the output I showed you before, which was the revenue bridge. It enables us to understand that for revenue, gross margin, EBITDA margin, as well as our costs. For the strategic scenarios, the second output I showed you, where we saw the 3 different scenarios plotted on a chart, we use curving. So we use curving to say, if we are at 100 million in revenue today, and we think that this priority will take us to 150 million revenue, when do we think that we will realize that? Will we realize it in a linear fashion, adding 10 million every 5 years? Or we realize it in an exponential fashion, where the first couple of years may be slower and then it builds up definitively and substantially? Do we think it will be logarithmic? Do we see more impact at the beginning, but we know that it will tail off because there are competitors who will catch up? So this is how we build some very enriched and compelling financial projections.
Okay. And another questions, I think you answered it. What type of analysis?
Yes.
You've answered it. And what the term of the market for certain market industry? Do you include it in these aspects?
Absolutely. So Ihab, very good question as well. If you remember within the external analysis, the first component of the external analysis is sizing. And there are a few elements we go through. So first we look at the TAM, so total addressable market. How big is that market? And then we look at serviceable obtainable market, so the SOM. So we do the TAM and SOM components of the TAM, SAM, SOM framework. So the serviceable obtainable market, we're saying how much of that market do we think is our fair share? How much can we go and grab? And what we look at is what is the TAM in that market space today, and what is the SOM in that market space today? And then we look at what will the TAM, do we believe the TAM will be in 5 years or over the period of our strategy? And what do we believe the SOM will be in 5 years over the period of our strategy? And that's what we leverage in order to understand, for some of it, opportunities and threats.
Okay. Here we have another question. How long does the strategy assessment take with the program?
Right. I think there was one missed maybe from Mohammed, which was, would the platform program be beneficial to use for a startup? Is it okay if I answer this one and then the next?
Yeah, sure.
Yep, perfect. So Mohammed asked, would the platform program be beneficial to use for a startup? It would. It is, and it has been used by startups before. But to be completely transparent with you, it's generally used by scale-ups. So scale-ups all the way through to very, very large corporates. In fact, the largest company by revenue that's using Strategy in Action today is a 16 billion euro industrial holding group. But it can be used for startups. If you use it for startups, it needs to be a startup that at least has some certainty or understanding and has at least begun to prove product market fit. Product market fit means that on the market, you have potential customers that have said, yes, that's interesting to me. I would buy it. I would engage with it. So if you are a startup or you know a startup that has product market fit, then this becomes applicable because we can use the process to build out their playing field, to build out their vision, mission, level of ambition, to understand their capabilities, to look at their competitors, to look at the wider market, to understand their priorities. However, if you are a startup or thinking about a startup that does not have product market fit, that is still in the discovery phase, then it becomes less applicable because you don't yet have certainty or you don't yet have a good understanding of what you will put to the market. But for startups that have product market fit, not all, but a lot of the elements of strategy and action are very useful and very impactful.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Waiting for your questions.
I think there was one other question.
We have some questions on the Q&A as well.
Yeah, how long does the strategy assessment take with the program? We answered it.
So,
I haven't answered that yet. I'll answer this one now.
Yeah.
So Rania, thank you. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but thank you very much for your question. Think again about the three components of the board. So you have vision, mission, level of ambition to strategic scenarios. That was your strategy formulation. That's your strategy assessment, I think you're alluding to. Then you have the operating plan, then you have the progress review. All of that together is strategy as a service. All of that together is a year of support of the consultant and the platform combined to support your team. The strategy assessment, which I think you mean the strategy formulation part, is normally between 2 to 4 months. So normally the strategy formulation part, and actually, Rita, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen again because I think it would be better to explain it whilst I show the screen. This part here, if everyone can see my screen again now, this is the strategy formulation part. This is normally 2 to 4 months. But if you needed to do it in 3 weeks, it could be done in 3 weeks. If you wanted to do it in 6 months, it could be done in 6 months. We just see on average, it's 2 to 4 months because this is 5 to 6 days of contact time with your experts, 5 to 6 days of contact time with Rita and Abdulrahman and the rest of the team. Down here is the support through the rest of the year. So within that, and this is to the other question that I think just came up on the chat rather than the Q&A, the 3-year program from Mohammed, within all of this support, you have workshops and coaching. And the workshops and coaching in itself is training for the organization. It is training for the management team. So within that, you can include the management team, but there are also training elements that can be delivered and cascaded down all the way through the organization. Because one of the ultimate goals that we're trying to build through this is ownership, understanding, and clarity of the strategy through the organization. Because if people don't understand it, if people don't have ownership, they're never going to execute it. But when people understand it, when people are engaged in it, when people are motivated, and when people have ownership to go and deliver, then generally we see fantastic results.
Good. Abdulrahman, does the 3-year program offer trainings for the organization or just the management team?
So yeah, thanks for the question as well, Muhammad. I think partially it was answered by Ben, but yeah, we do coaching, of course. It is of course the accountability and responsibility will lay on the management team definitely about the strategy. So ultimately they will be involved in those kind of meetings. But if things need to be delivered to the middle level, let's say, or even the junior level, of course we can do that. By the end of the day, the objective is to reach the execution, the full execution and successful execution. And if the organization needs some assistance, even with the mid and low management team, definitely we will do that. Yes.
Okay, another question. Also, do you offer trainings for the organization to all, I think as a whole, to be aligned with the new and
I think this is the one. This is the one I answered. I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is the one just answered. And that's really the purpose as well, Rania, of the strategy room. The communication piece up here that I showed you is you can give access to the entire team. You can give access to everyone. So they can go in and they can have visibility of the strategy. And this is designed so that they have full alignment with the strategic plan, with the new and improved strategy, as you say.
Looks like we've finished. I think I got to everyone and their questions. If I missed any questions, I will personally email you and get you an answer. Thank you for your time and participation, and still we have last 2 minutes for any questions to appear.
And please, everyone, feel free to, if you would like to connect on LinkedIn or anything like this, then more than happy to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have in the chat, and I think it will be sent by email as well, the link for the book, the 30-minute free consultation session. Please feel free. We'll be more than happy to assist you. And yeah, we will send you the recording as well after we finish the session. Yeah,
can you watch?
Yeah, we will send you the recording after the session.
Yes. Okay. So thank you all. Thanks for listening. So thanks for your patience and thanks for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.